Our next meeting is May 23rd. I am hoping that we can meet in Wright. We are regularly scheduled to meet there. Last time that we had to cancel, they were very disappointed. They wanted to see us. So I'd like to get to Wright next month. We're looking at how we can do that and have enough space if there are a lot of people. So stay tuned and I'll let you know. We'll either be at the library or we'll be in an alternate site with a little more space. And if anybody needs a ride, if you meet me at the library, I can get you there.
Because we go every year to Wright?
We do try to go twice a year.
Twice a year.
Last time we were scheduled to be there was October, but we had an appeal and it would have been hard to ask the people who were doing the appeal to drive all the way to Wright to do it. So.
Well, I think it's a good idea to go to Wright, and I hope we can find enough space. The room in the library is very, very small, so we'll just have to see what happens, I guess. And congratulations on your award.
Thank you.
Okay. Have you already touched on monthly usage?
That was,
Touched on overdrive, canopy, and then we had those library users and circulation stats. We looked
Okay.
into.
So we're done with the director's report.
We are done.
All right. That brings us to public presentations correspondence. We have our list of people who would like to say something for whatever. Okay, the first person on our list is this Andrew Painter?
Hello,
press and hold.
sorry.
Press and hold.
I have two buttons, mute or select. Hello. Should we mute that? Testing. I very much enjoyed the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance, so thank you for that. My remarks begin with bigotry, which is a word I've heard a lot. The dictionary defines bigotry as blind and unreasoning opposition. I was 18 years old when I lived and worked in Topeka, Kansas, and first saw real bigotry for the first time. In that case, it was the fake Reverend Fred Phelps and his group who were blocking traffic, disrupting business during business hours, and harassing anyone and everyone who not just attempted to enter a targeted bank, but just tried to walk by on the sidewalk. The bank's crime was not that they were gay-owned, was not that they were giving inappropriate loans to gays or gay-owned businesses, but was simply that they had hired a recent college graduate who happened to be gay. And somehow Fred Phelps found out and decided to put on this big show. Their slogans were vile, and their images were obscene on the pickets they carried around. I will not repeat or describe them. Next is David Shaw, who I recently read about. He was fired as the school principal in a small town in rural Wyoming after it came to their attention that he got busted on video attempting to solicit multiple sexual favors from what he believed to be a 14-year-old boy on the internet. On the social media platform where he did this, David Shaw called himself Teacher of All. Finally, with regard to Pink Floyd, in 1982, Pink Floyd released a feature-length film titled The Wall, along with a soundtrack album, which had the track Another Brick in the Wall. So where the strongest worded slogan, these people behind me, put on their picket was "Don't trans our kids." What I heard and read was simply, "Hey, teacher, leave those kids alone," which is the repetitive chorus in Pink Floyd's The Wall. I think anyone who calls that bigotry is themselves the bigot, on a par with Fred Phelps, and I think it's total fraud. Thank you.
Ed Sisti.
Can you hear this? Good to see everybody. Mr. Chairman, Board. Been out for a couple of months, but it's good to be back. In case you've forgotten why we're here, it's because Campbell County Public Library lends books that have graphically sexual explicit material with how-to illustrations to children and teens. And that's the bottom line. How has the library been able to distribute inappropriate material to our children? One way is the library's affiliation with the American Library Association and their Marxist methods. Alex Awards were given to 2 books that were written for adults, Gender Queer and Lawn Boy. This award then makes them popular with young adults and the library, and then the library orders them for young people. That's one way they do it. Another way is to give awards, like the John Philip Imroth Memorial Award for upholding intellectual freedom instead of parental rights. Why has our group continued to fight relentlessly for the past year? Because we know we're countering Marxist ideologues. Who else would fight against parental rights and indoctrinate children? Marxist ideologues can't see how protecting children's innocence benefits society. Marxist ideologues can only see that they must indoctrinate our children because they have no other groups that will listen to their failed system, and it is a failed system. Yes, there is an agenda here. Books can groom children. Major corporations are losing the intellectual freedom versus traditional parent rights, such as Disney and ExxonMobil. 4 governors, Glenn Youngkin from Virginia, Ron DeSantis from Florida, Greg Abbott from Texas, and Henry McMaster from South Carolina. Youngkin championed parental rights and won the election. DeSantis, K-3 SOGI ban was upheld and removed the independent district for Disney. Abbott from Texas called for a book purge, and one library alone purged 400 books. And Henry McMaster, South Carolina, banned the book Gender Queer from his state. He took charge and he decided that parental rights were more important than intellectual freedom. And I hope someday, very soon, we will do the same. Our children are being abused. Yes, they are. And they can be groomed by a book that they are given, that's approved from by people that are supposedly leaders in our community. Thank you.
Ben Decker.
If you wonder why you don't have more challenges now, it is because you have admitted that the process is a way to promote books. I brought a very questionable book to your attention immediately after the last library board meeting, but haven't heard anything back. Because I'm not interested in promoting the book, I'm not making a formal complaint. The director has stated she is hesitant to meet with any of us because she doesn't want to be recorded. What is she afraid of? I've noticed that you don't accept challenges from people who live in other cities, but accept praise from people all over the country and count a few out-of-state emails as massive community support. The problem we are bringing to your attention is a nationwide problem. 2 weeks ago, the ALA elected Emily Defrensky as president. She is openly Marxist and not afraid to disclose the ALA's anti-American agenda. Is this why the board was not pledging allegiance to the American flag before we were involved? Comprehensive sex education and critical race theory are used in books in this library to advance the Marxist agenda. So my question today is, who are you trying to please? The ALA and out-of-state activists, or the people in this community? Thank you.
Kevin Bennett.
Good afternoon. So we've brought up a few things that are really relevant and worth thinking about here. There's some writing on the wall. There's an additional board member, and there are 2 seats which are up to be filled this year. And the existential crisis we're dealing with in this community is one that is seen across the country. Ed Sisti mentioned Disney. Disney recently lost $200 million in tax relief because they had a special area in Orlando where they had the ability to run things like their own little fiefdom, if you will. And this specific issue we're talking about right here is what toppled that. Now, Disney's a $206 billion a year corporation with $97 billion in available assets. That's a lot of money. It didn't help. And Ron DeSantis put through a bill that changed that. Florida's been doing a lot of stuff. And they're not the only ones. Netflix, of Cuties fame and of Big Mouth fame, both which are grooming programs, their stock fell, I believe, 68.6% from over $600 a share to $209 a share. Disney's, and this is in the last 6 months, Disney's in the last 6 months fell 30.28%. CNN Plus failed after 3 weeks, and Elon Musk bought Twitter today. Now, something else I learned today was that the ALA appointed Emily Defrensky as the 2022-2023 ALA president, which is very interesting because she describes herself as a Marxist and as a lesbian. Now, Disney, whose stock fell and who lost $200 million, they openly said they have a not-so-secret gay agenda. One CEO said that they try to push the gay agenda in wherever they can. A $206 billion company that's worldwide and has CEOs saying that is, in effect, saying that they have a corporate culture, a branding, if you will, and that'll percolate throughout the massive company, its subsidiaries, and anyone else that it works with. Now, the ALA, with a lesbian Marxist president for this coming year, has books on their best fiction for young adults list that come from Disney publishers. Disney, who has admitted publicly they have a very not-so-secret gay agenda. Disney, who also, before admitting that, included things like a gay kiss in the most recent Star Wars movie. So even before that, they were doing this. What this means is that there is a paper trail between the ALA and Disney, which demonstrates that libraries accepting the suggestions of the ALA are in fact promoting company materials that have openly advocated for a gay agenda. Now, we're not just against that. We are against that as a group here. What we're against is any sexual material being put in front of children on the tax dime in a promotional sense, and that's what's going on here. And until that is fixed, we will continue to show up.
Priscilla Hickson.
I must say, I just learned about this new president. If anybody wants to imply that there is no agenda about the ALA, all they need to do is read her comments, which I'm not going to take time to do. I'm quite a bit older than most of you here, maybe not quite everybody. I don't know about you, Charlie. But as I grew up, I'm 72.
You got me beat by 1 year.
So when I was growing up, you know, I was a Protestant, and, you know, we kind of complained about the Catholics and whatever, but one thing that they used to say was that if I have a child till they're age 5, they'll be a Catholic forever. So that's implying that the first formative years of education to a child are really important. Now, if we look at our soldiers, I'm gonna get to this event pretty soon, but I'm not quite there yet. If you know that our soldiers, they like them about age 18 to 23, do you know why that is? Because between ages 18 and 23, they still have an adolescent brain. And they will take risks and do dumb stuff just because they want to. If we look at our insurance rates, if any of you that have boys that had car insurance, which I had, their insurance rates are really high until they're 25. And that's because at 25, all of a sudden their brains start working a little bit better. When I was in my emotional disability class, when I was doing my special ed endorsement, we went down to the prison down there and looked at all these people that are in prison. And one of the things, a lot of them are psychopaths, which means they are not able to determine right from wrong. And we learned in that class that that happens by age 5 because of their interactions with their parents. So that brings me to this article. It's published, it's a study published in the NIH Gov. It's about maturation of the adolescent brain. Magnetic resonance imaging studies have discovered that myelogenesis required for proper insulation and efficient neurocybernetics continues from childhood, and the brain's region-specific neural circuitry remains structurally and fundamentally vulnerable to impulsive sex, food, and sleep habits. That is through age 23. Oh boy, I'm not going to get much out of this. Well, I'll save it for next time. The point is that they have a lot of access to the internet, and I understand that, but they can get there. If they don't get this information from the library, we can know that they're not getting it from the library. We can know that they're getting these ideas from the internet, and the library is not at all liable or contributing to that kind of information. Well, I'll just do this next time. Thank you.
Susan Sisti.
Hello. Didn't start my time.
Hello.
Oh, it works. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome, Sage, to the board. And yeah, I want to start off here. I have 3 things to review, but my first question is, how does a professional educator teach? They do that by putting materials in front of a child. They put the materials before the child that they want the child to learn. Okay? That's exactly what's happening here at the Campbell County Library. They're putting books out, videos out in full view. I've been all through the library. They put books out that contain sexual confusion and perversion for minors. These methods are being used by our library to sexually indoctrinate minors. The materials are on display, easy to access, and have been deemed acceptable by the library staff. So therefore, you are trying to teach our children. It's very clear. If it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, it's a duck you're teaching. And last month, Rainbow Book Club for Eat, Read, and Repeat, you had a suggested reading book for our teenagers, which includes A Quick and Easy Guide to Queer and Trans Identities, among others. You're indoctrinating our children, Terry Leslie. And the Imagination Library, before we go any further, I've already researched it. I'm from Nashville, know all about Dolly. They contain gay, homosexual authors, and there's gender-bending books in the list. You can contact me, and I can go over that. I've already researched it. So I want to get to 3 books. I have a problem with your challenge process because, as we know, it's Marxist. And I have a whole stack here of returned forms that were denied, mostly by Darcy Accord. And you know what they all say? Yes, the material's in there. This is UBU, A Kid's Guide to Gender, Sexuality, and Family. According to Darcy, this book is for 3 to 6-year-olds, really? Or 5 to 10? Topics, according to Darcy, assigned sexes, intersectionality, gender identity, stereotypes. Let me read you a page, Intersexuality, from this book. Everybody has a lot of identities at once, like you might be an able-bodied Latino, Muslim, lesbian, cisgender girl, a white, bisexual, genderqueer Christian person with autism, and on and on. 3-year-olds don't need to see this. Sex Plus, just going to go over that a little quick. She admits that it has all this in here, but again, they say, we're not telling them to do it, but you're putting the materials before them. And the same in sex is a funny word, where I just have to read this. Like other holes in the body, the anus is usually very sensitive. This is for 4-year-olds, which means it can feel good to touch, but it can also hurt if you're rough with it. Because the anus is where the outside of our body meets, on and on, where poo comes out, you need to wash your hands. So second paragraph can feel good to touch. Third paragraph, wash your hands after touching. How is that not teaching? And I'm here because I love our children, and I just hope you guys will listen to us. I called Governor Gordon today, begging them to help us. And I offered to send him 50 copies of Pages if he wants it. Thank you.
Leave the mic.
Gail Cruz?
I have an article that I want to hand out to you. Do you want me to vault the tables, or what do you want me to do?
No, it's
All right. Might be entertaining. I'll take it. Thank you. Hi, my name is Gail Cruz, and my big concern, usually I talk about the health of the children, and that is so critical, all the diseases that are encouraged, never warned about in all these books that our library is pushing onto children. But today I'm taking a different tactic. I too saw all the articles about Ms. Defrensky and her being elected to the ALA. And she is an avowed Marxist. She doesn't try to hide it. And if anybody has a cursory background in history, we all know about that and what their agenda is, which is to bring down any democratic republic, to focus control in the hands of a few, usually oligarchs that become exceedingly wealthy while the rest of the people stand in bread lines. We've seen that where? China, Russia, Venezuela, Cuba, and yet this woman was elected to the ALA. Not only that, she has a specific sexual agenda that she wants to integrate into all her position and power. And this article right here is not only just an article about her and with quotes, there are screen pics of her tweets where she tells exactly who she is and what her agenda is. This is not something anybody has had to dig out. My proposal, and what I would like to ask the board to do, is to separate from the ALA, to absolutely have no contact with it, because our tax dollars are sent in as dues, aren't they? Yes. I don't want my money sent to this George Soros Marxist organization. He supports a huge part of the ALA. So that is what I'm asking you to do as a board, as many communities are doing, and that is to divorce this library from the ALA.
You bet.
Good afternoon. Congratulations, Ms. Barron. Charlie, I'd have a discussion with you about what's going on, but obviously you're not listening. There's a little phrase going around.
Glad to see you too.
Good afternoon to me too, thank you. And I think as long as the people who are dug in on grooming children and not willing to discuss the merits of their position, but would rather offer vague platitudes about censorship instead of actually discussing the issue, there's very little point in talking to you about it, but I would like to make an example. There's a little town in Wyoming called Encampment. They received an email from somebody in Gillette about Lawn Boy. They took that to, I believe, the superintendent of education in this little town. The superintendent of education reviewed the book and pulled it. Now, I've heard it said that the cumulative IQ of a mob decreases as it increases in size. So Encampment's about 500 people, Gillette's about 30,000. I think this is a pretty good example of that, in that the people who are dug in, determined to keep this liberal nonsense going, despite the cost to the community and the children and the taxpayer, aren't really using their critical thinking skills. And some of you are old enough to have received those skills in college and high school and grade school. So I would suggest the be woke or go broke applies to your political careers as well.
Yes.
And I'm looking forward to some more things.
Okay. Patty Johnson. Sorry.
I'm going to read fast, okay? Here we are again. I think it's a fair statement to say we're all tired of this battle. Sadly, that's what it started out as and what it continues to be. It's been you versus us and us versus them. There have been many unfair attacks on both sides, but here are some facts. This battle is not a continuation of last July's protest. I do challenge some of what you said, how it started. I wasn't even part of that protest. This battle is because it was brought to our attention that there were and are books in the library available to young children that are concerning. Hackles were raised because people are questioning the library's policies and decisions. I thought we lived in a country where people are allowed and even encouraged to question the powers that be. Unfortunately, tactics and emotions have overruled common sense, reasonability, and compromise on both sides. No one likes being attacked. I am a Christian, yes. My beliefs shape my opinions, but I don't call out others as being Satanists, atheists, heterophobes, or whatever, just because their beliefs shape their opinions. I often feel like I'm back on the school playground or in the movie Mean Girls. You have an existing board member who publicly criticized the newest board member before her first meeting without even knowing her because of her husband's Facebook friend. Seriously? And you want to say you don't have an agenda? There are many I don't agree with on both sides of this battle, and I've been quite vocal about it. Both sides have equally attacked the other. No, I have not challenged even one book. Why? Because I knew it would be a waste of my time, and I have been proven correct. Many say these specific books need to be available to teens questioning. If anyone is specifically questioning, wouldn't they be specifically searching? So why would these books not be just as easily accessible to those searching if they were in a different location within the library? Makes no sense to me. Why is it so important to all who defend against moving these books that they be left in an area for those who are not searching to stumble across them? This does not seem like a reasonable decision, but rather an agenda. What if the library chose to intermingle Bibles or other Christian faith books throughout a specific section? I think that would produce an even bigger uproar. You want to say you compromised by moving 2 whole books. You knew the person who challenged those 2 books was not publicly connected to this group. So you granted that person's request so you could brag about compromising while repeatedly rejecting every single one of the books challenged by this group. For goodness sake, people, grow up.
We're through public comments. Thank you very much. Motion to adjourn?
A motion to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second it.
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
There we go.